Senator from Minnesota.
Madam President, I ask that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Madam President, I come to the floor this afternoon to talk about the housing market crisis. I'm grateful for the bipartisan work of Majority Leader Reid, Republican Leader McConnell, and Senators Dodd and Shelby, and hopeful that we can finally pass legislation that gives our neighborhoods and middle-class families solutions to address the subprime and foreclosure crisis that has really been affecting the economy not only in my state, but across the country. For the past year and a half, we've been hearing all about this subprime crisis. I think many people not facing foreclosure, and that's most of us, have had this view. This doesn't affect me. I pay my mortgage. I don't have a subprime or adjustable rate mortgage, and I'm dealing with a responsible mortgage lender. But the truth is, none of us can escape the impact any longer. The housing crisis is now affecting every homeowner in this country and every would-be homeowner. It is dragging down our entire overall economy, and it's not just in the urban areas. In our state, the foreclosure rate has doubled in the rural areas, and in fact, the areas of our state, the two counties with the highest foreclosure rate, are exurban counties bordering on the rural area. I'm a member of the Joint Economic Committee, and just this morning, Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke testified before our committee about the state of the economy, about our financial markets, about what happened with Bear Stearns. Chairman Bernanke testified this morning that the housing market is at the root of our economic crisis. And until Congress addresses this crisis, our economy will not be on sure footing. In January, with record speed, Congress enacted an immediate and temporary fiscal stimulus package. Americans will start getting their checks in just a few weeks, but we have to have solutions in this country to our economic troubles that go far beyond the day that those rebate checks are cashed. We have to look at this housing crisis. I believe we need to have a long-term energy plan. We have to put in place a health care plan that makes health care more affordable and also makes it more fiscally responsible. It's going to become very clear that this stimulus package will not be enough to address the deep-seated problems that have been developing over several years in our housing and financial markets. Home ownership has always been considered a basic part of the American dream. But in the last few years, the dream has changed in ways that our parents wouldn't even recognize. A decade ago, just 5% of mortgage loan originations were subprime, meaning that they were made to borrowers who wouldn't qualify for regular mortgages. By 2005, it was 20% of the mortgages that were subprime. This opened the dream of home ownership to millions of people, but it also greatly increased the risk to our system. In Minnesota in 2000, there were just 8,347 subprime mortgages issued. By 2005, it had increased more than five-fold to more than 47,000 subprime mortgages. In addition, adjustable rate mortgages now make up a much larger share of the market than they did 10 years ago. Many people took out these loans during a period of low interest rates. But when interest rates went up, their mortgage payments adjusted upward, and they found that they were unable to make their monthly payments. We met some of these people in Minnesota, people who had looked for a mortgage because home values were so high, got a subprime mortgage, understood that the rate would go up, but were under the misimpression that in fact there was a cap or it would go up a few $100s, and in fact they saw in some cases a doubling of their mortgage payments. We've had a wave of home foreclosures as a result of all this. It started in 2006 and continues today. During 2007, nearly 1.3 million homes became subject to foreclosure, a huge increase from 2005. What started as a foreclosure crisis is now having ripple effects, or more like a tsunami wave, across the entire economy. It's no longer just a foreclosure crisis, it's a housing market crisis, it's a credit crisis, it's an economic crisis. It affects everyone who wants to borrow money, whether it's for a house, for a car, a college education, or a small business. It affects you even if you make your mortgage payments on time every month. And even if you've already paid off your mortgage, the rise in delinquencies and foreclosures, coupled with the credit squeeze that has made it harder for many buyers to obtain a mortgage, has resulted in an excess supply of houses on the market, and that has in turn depressed home prices. Just last week, a report showed that home prices in the Twin Cities and Minnesota have fallen by nearly 11% in the last year, one of the sharpest drops in the country. Last fall, the Joint Economic Committee issued a report on the housing crisis and its impact on the broader economy. The findings are troubling. The report estimates that by 2009, 2 million foreclosures will occur. $71 billion in housing wealth will be directly destroyed because a foreclosure reduces the value of a home and the values of the homes around it. $71 billion in housing wealth. Another $32 billion in housing wealth for other homeowners will be destroyed because each foreclosure brings down the prices of houses generally. The most poignant example of this would be a year or so ago in some of our urban neighborhoods where you started seeing the foreclosures, you seen a foreclosure sign, see a foreclosure sign, and made people not want to move into that neighborhood. Well, now we're seeing it statewide, and we're seeing the effect that this has on reducing the home values in general. State and local governments will lose more than $917 million in property tax revenue because of lower housing values. By one estimate, 10% of all homeowners, 8.8 million people, have a mortgage that's at least as much or more than their home is currently worth. That's 10% of all homeowners have a mortgage that's worth at least as much or more than their home is currently worth. And if home values were to fall 20% from their peak, even more, 13.3 million would be living in homes worth less than their mortgages. For the first time since the Federal Reserve started tracking the data in 1945, the amount of debt tied up in American homes now exceeds the equity that homeowners have built up, with home equities slipping below 48% in the fourth quarter of 2007. But you don't have to read a congressional report or go to our hearing and sit through all the testimony to see how this ripple effect is touching everyday consumers. Last Tuesday, the Conference Board, a business research group, reported that consumer confidence fell to the lowest level in 5 years, just before the Iraq invasion. In the past couple of weeks, many Minnesotans just got their annual county property tax statements and were shocked to see that even the county values their home at thousands of dollars less than last year. You might think that all of this would be good for first-time home buyers, that they would be a beneficiary of this because the amounts of money and the values of these homes are going down. But many of them, these first-time home buyers, who might not have as much credit themselves, might not have as much money in the bank, they find that just as some bargains are coming on the market, the banks are raising rates and tightening their lending standards, making it harder and harder for ordinary families to qualify for a loan. We don't have to sit on the sidelines and watch as this housing crisis eats away at our finances and paralyzes our economy. We need to take steps to help homeowners and home buyers, and we can. And I'm pleased this is done on a bipartisan basis these last few days. I actually had a reporter run after me down the hall and said, Senator Reid, Majority Leader Reid just said that we're going to work together on this, that you guys are going to work together, the Democrats and Republicans. And that's what he said. I said, well, that's true. That's good. We want to get it done. And he said, okay, thank you. I think people are surprised, but when you have an enormous crisis like this, the Congress must work together to get this done.